Welcome to the King of the Court podcast with Ben Riggs and Ben Staten.
Welcome to the King of the Court podcast. I'm Ben Riggs. This is Ben Staten.
Yo.
All right, man.
Before we start, we have to address the biggest miscarriage of justice that has been happening in this country in centuries, maybe, millennia. And that was LeBron James getting nominated to, I believe, his 842nd consecutive All-Star game as a starter over Victor Wembamyama.
You said it's the biggest travesty.
Oh, it's a complete travesty.
Didn't say it's not. I'm saying you said biggest.
Yes.
I take offense to that. I can name one from last year that's worse.
What?
Domantas Sabonis not being an All-Star last year is worse than Wemby not starting this year.
Maybe.
Sabonis not being an All-Star last year is worse than Wemby not. Sabonis, wasn't he all NBA last year? I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about, dude. Even this year, the Kings are playing exceptionally well.
He's not going to make it this year.
He's way down the list. I'm looking at it right now.
They guaranteed it by putting Wemby in there because they're going
to barely above Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
He's barely above Andrew Wiggins, and Sabonis is averaging 21 and 14 with 6 assists. He's shooting 47% from three and 60% from the floor with 21 points a game and 14 rebounds a game on arguably the hottest team in the NBA right now. And this son of a bitch is barely above Andrew Wiggins.
I want to point out to all listeners, this is not a planned segment. This is just him rattling names off from the top of his head.
You're not in Paris.
I am not in Paris. Yeah.
But I assume.
Are you in Paris, Texas? Yeah.
I'm not.
You're wearing a Whataburger shirt. Yeah, so that's why I was asking.
Shirt, which was founded in San Antonio. And I know you're not in Paris, but I assume that you, like most Americans, on Thursday, just a random fucking Thursday in the middle of January, stopped what you were doing and sat on that comfortable little couch behind you and turned that TV on, and you watched your Spurs play from Paris.
It's why the mute button and the go off camera during Google Meets is so important. I was, you're able to watch. You're able to watch a game because otherwise, you're just going to see me in the background going, "What are you doing?" With standing up and standing up mid meeting. But no, it was a peculiar time to play a basketball game. That's for sure. But it was for all Spurs fan. It was a welcome sigh of relief just to see this team that had been in a major funk. They had, honestly dating back to they've been in a little bit of a run to be like at the beginning of the month. They played Denver twice, and they won the first game. It was the game that sort of led to the conversations on the Spurs for real after Jokic had to make that turnover because Wemby nearly blocked his last second shot. And then since then, they've just been abject disasters, losing 6 of 7. And the one they won was when the NBA decided randomly to play a game while, in Los Angeles with the Lakers while the entire city was burning, and the coach had literally just lost his house, so that, even that win can't be, comes with somewhat of an asterisk.
Yeah.
The one of the things we had seen during this stretch was Wemby, after a period of consistent good play in the month of December, consistent play with aggression, consistent, not taking the easy way out and just bombing all of his shots from three, but, fighting for position in the post. That had sort of gone away. He'd played a slew of teams, namely Memphis and Miami, who are amongst.
Did they have Houston during that stretch too?
I believe they did play one game. I could be wrong, but. They played the Lakers in there as well. But teams that are on the very physical side.
Yeah.
And his bit, he spent a lot of games where he was just out of sync with the offense. You could see he was very frustrated with the contact. His free throw rate plummeted. He went 3 games in a row without getting a free throw until the Heat game. And he would drive to the hoop, throw up a shot, look at the refs for contact. He would just default to shooting 3-pointers. He would spend entire quarters against Milwaukee, an entire game where he just was completely out of sync with the rest of the team. Didn't really seem to make an effort to get integrated into the offense and demand the ball. And it really reinforced to me watching that stretch that the Spurs have some interesting prospects. Sochan is shooting issues, but he's a fantastic defensive player. Plays with intensity. Young. A lot of potential. Vassell, kind of sort of a mirror image of Sochan in that fantastic defensive player. Great potential, can't shoot. Vassell's been after a really rocky beginning of the year has been rounding into form. He was fantastic tonight, absolutely fantastic tonight. But even
he's been fantastic for about five games now.
Yeah.
After missing a considerable amount of time for injury, it took him a while to get ramped up.
Yes.
But I think he's finding a groove.
Yes, absolutely. And these are all interesting pieces. But the reality with this team is that for it to be competitive on a night-to-night basis, Wemby has to be playing at an all-star, not an all-star level, at a MVP level, top 5 MVP contender level. And for the month of December, he absolutely was. He was averaging 28 points, shooting nearly 40% from 3, 10 rebounds, 4 blocks, 4 assists. He was a top 5 MVP contender. In December, that dropped 8 points per game to 20 points per game, which Wemby can basically walk into 20 points a game just because of his size. And that's kind of like a floor for him. He was averaging until tonight only 2 free throws a game, which it just should not
inexcusable.
happen. That's on him rather than
he's just floating around out by the 3-point line, looking to collect the ball 28 feet from the goal and then ISO someone. Yeah. And you're playing with the point guard. You're playing with a guy who understands basketball in a functional way, like very few people do. And he understands that the advantage for Wemby is not floating around 28 feet from the goal playing ISO basketball. And so unless Wemby's going to establish himself in a position that's advantageous for the team, Chris Paul's not going to reward it.
Yeah, he's a dad. He's not going to reward bad behavior.
He is. He's the dad of that damn team. That's what Chris Paul is.
He is. He and Harrison Barnes, but particularly Paul, he is a coach on the floor, but a coach in very much a dad sense. And one of the things that was great about tonight was that entire pattern that I just spent 3 minutes rambling on describing did not happen tonight. He was consistently aggressive from the get-go. He attacked the rim. His shot was on, 3-point shot was on, but he used his 3-point shot to establish pump fake to get to the rim. He established post position. He attacked from the mid-range. It was consistent throughout the night. This was not a thing where he was aggressive in the first quarter and the end of the third quarter, but the rest of the game he sort of floated around. No, it was consistent throughout the night. He took what the defense was giving him. When the defense was was packing the paint, he took catch and shoot threes. When the defense started trying to run him off 3-point line, he would pump fake, take a couple dribbles, either try hit Sochan or hit Barnes for a lob. On a backcourt, on a back cut lob, or he would attack the rim. And there was one play that was truly amazing where he attacked the rim. It seemed like he took 2 steps too early, and then you see him throw the ball off the backboard and in traffic catch and throw himself an alley-oop. This was one of the best games I've seen him ever play.
And I think it's important to point out a couple things about him. I mean, he's 20, 21 years old.
Just turned 21, yeah.
21. He's a kid. And he has a pattern of showing up in big games. He does like the limelight. Like Christmas Day was a big thing for him. Obviously the Olympics, I think they were the final against Team USA. He likes to show up in big moments. And I think that it's really hard. First of all, it's impossible for any of us to comprehend the amount of pressure that he has on him from a basketball point of view. I think,
yeah,
like,
100%.
honestly, there might be one person on the planet that fully understands it.
That's LeBron James.
Maybe Caitlin Clark gets it a little bit. Like they're very similar.
I think that may be the closest one actually. Then
Yeah. Oh, LeBron gets the chosen one
one.
element at that age and all that stuff. Like LeBron gets that. He understands that. And the amount of pressure that you have on you to perform instantly at that level has to be just utterly insane. Like I think that there is an element of it though with Wemby that like LeBron and Caitlin Clark can't relate to, which is that LeBron went from Akron to Cleveland. Caitlin went from Iowa to Indiana. Wemby had to traverse an ocean.
It's a couple more miles of driving away.
Yeah.
Put it that way. Yeah.
He had to change continents.
There's no interstate that leads you from one to the other.
No, he had to change continents and disconnect from everything that he knows and that is familiar to him, and adjust as a human being in a way that LeBron and Caitlin Clark have not had to do. And I think that there's probably difficulty that comes along with that, and sort of acclimating yourself, not just to your new basketball world, which has its own challenges. I mean, it's not to say that when he was playing in France that he wasn't playing high-level competition, but I don't think anybody in their right mind would say that it's anything like what he faces on a nightly basis in the NBA. And, Wemby's a guy who, like you mentioned earlier, he can walk into 20 points. And so when you look at the stat sheet and you see that he had 20, it's not impressive. Now, it may be like 20 and 20 is, but just 20 in and of itself isn't impressive. And, it's one of those things where he has one of those nights where he scores 20 points and goes and sits in front of the press. And the questions are, about his shot selection, about his level of aggression, about his reluctance to play, more in a post position and things like that. Because the expectations for him is not to realize his high floor. The expectations is for him to realize his high ceiling.
Yes.
And he has to realize that high ceiling playing against guys who are more athletic than what he's used to, stronger and bigger than what he's used to, faster than what he's used to. And he has to do it being the guy for that team that they're scheming to take out.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like it's unfair, but he's not being judged on the standard of are you Karl Anthony Towns? He's being judged on the standard of are you going to be the greatest player ever? And
yeah, he's being compared to LeBron and Jordan. He's not being compared to Cat.
Yeah. So, like some of his bad games will look like career games for really good players. Like he'll have 20, 13, and 6 blocks, in a bad night. And like it will legitimately be a game where you'll be tearing your hair out. And
I'm not making excuses for him. No. Like I don't think that he would want the expectations to be lowered. I think he embraces the idea that like I want to be in those conversations. It's just that for him to be in those conversations, he's going to have to consistently learn to play the way that he did today and on Christmas Day and in the Olympics final. Like he's going to have to learn to bring that level of aggression and intensity. And in another word, I think that doesn't get thrown out with him a lot that I think fits is it's not just aggression and intensity. It's intentionality.
Yes,
like bring some intention to
that's a really good word.
Intention to your game.
And the other thing that I think hasn't missed, and this has been like it's kind of becoming the eternal debate in Spurs world, is one thing that kind of coincided with the bad stretch of play was that Sochan had been out with a bad back.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of debate, and I have shifted a little bit over the course of time over this, but whether is Sochan a long-term piece? Now, I think everyone recognizes that Jeremy Sochan is actually a very, very good basketball player and can be a key piece on a good team. The question with him specifically is, does he fit with Wemby? And this all comes back to one thing, which is he has a very awkward-looking shooting stroke, and does that work? Does pairing Wemby with a player whose offensive style is much more of a traditional back to the basket post game big, is that going to work long term? And like in theory, if you took it at first glance, it should work because Wemby wants to play on the perimeter. But the problem with that is that does also play into Wemby's preference, which is to play on the perimeter. And there have been games this season we have seen where he's just, when he's placed in this position, all he does is shoot threes. He doesn't attack.
Well, and he's eager to use Sochan's presence down there as an excuse to float around out there.
Float around out there and like just stays in the perimeter. And like everyone I think is in agreement that the long-term ultimate version of Wemby is going to be one that plays at all three levels and not just shooting three-pointers. And if you don't agree with that, then you just need to take a look in the mirror and say, where's the best place for a 7'6" dude to be on the basketball court? And the answer is close to the rim.
Like, you need to exit the chat because the problem is if you're looking at the version of Wemby that A is going to make San Antonio a title contender, and B is going to put Wemby in those conversations with LeBron and Jordan.
Yeah.
They're going to have to include some version of Wemby having an interior game.
Yeah. I like to tell people, Wemby doesn't need to be Kareem, just Kareem. But Kareem was pretty fucking good, and, he's
a decent player.
He was a decent player, and, right now, you're saying, I don't want to be Kareem, I want to be Karl Anthony Towns, just bombing away from three-pointer. I think if you take a look at the careers, Kareem's is a little more impressive. So, let's incorporate a lot of Kareem in here as well. Let's make sure that we're not
let's not to put down Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is not going to be in the conversations with LeBron and Jordan, but he's an incredible basketball player. We talked about this offline earlier, and I was saying, honestly, I don't think Wemby will ever be the three-point shooter that Karl Anthony Towns is, and I'm not entirely sure he will ever be as good at putting the ball on the ground from the three-point line and driving to the rim as Karl Anthony Towns is. Karl Anthony Towns' game is very simple and is predicated upon his strength. He's a fantastic shooter. When he catches the ball, if he's open, the shot goes up.
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity to drive, it's a straight line drive to the basket. It's not a lot of dribbling around. And if neither one of those two things are open, the ball moves. Wemby doesn't need to try to be Karl Anthony Towns. He doesn't have the same strengths as Karl Anthony Towns. Wemby's a good catch and shoot 3-point guy when he's open. He can step into trailing threes. He can put the ball on the ground and attack closeouts when there's an opportunity. I mean, honestly, if we're talking about 3-point shooting, I think he needs to, and he can be a better 3-point shooter than PJ Washington, but he needs to model his 3-point shooting after PJ Washington. And the truth is, I don't think he's going to be that much better of a 3-point shooter than PJ Washington. I think Wemby.
All non-Mavs fans are saying, huh? With this comparison, but yeah.
Well, the reason I'm bringing up this comparison is the thing to me that's of interest in the comparison isn't it's not PJ Washington's 3-point shooting prowess, although I think he's shooting a touch better than Wemby this year. The point I'm making about PJ Washington is when he has an open catch and shoot three, he shoots.
He takes it. Yeah.
When he doesn't, he attacks the closeout. I think he punishes smaller players.
You're saying something that's really important. That basically boils down to Wemby needs to realize that he's overcomplicating a lot of the things he does.
Yes, PJ Washington's game is very simple.
Yeah, it's and this goes back to Karl Towns thing. Wemby is 7'6". Like I know he says he's 7'3", but he's taller than Zach Edey by about 2 inches, and Zach Edey's clearly 7'4". And when he next, so he's 7'6". In the Heat game, there were multiple times where Wemby got the ball against um, whoever their name. I'm blanking on their name. What's the name of the first guy? The first name of the Robinson, Duncan Robinson. They got the ball against Duncan Robinson in the mid range area, and Wemby for some reason was taking drifting left fadeaway jumpers against Duncan Robinson. There's no reason for you to ever do that.
Well, and real quick, I know this segment's about Wemby, but I don't want a clip of me saying something fucking stupid. So I want to clarify what I'm saying about Wemby real quick. Like, I'm not saying Wemby can aspire to be PJ Washington. I think that Wemby is a better basketball player than PJ Washington. What I am saying is that Wemby is kind of like a one of one.
Yes.
Like and that's why he ends up getting thrust into these conversations with people like Jordan and LeBron, potentially. Jordan and LeBron were one of ones.
Yes.
And when you look at like the comparison I'm making to PJ Washington, what I am saying is that PJ has a style of play that would suit Wemby well. Wemby can do this at a much higher level, but the 3-point shooting, I don't think he's going to do significantly better than PJ Washington.
Well, I think he can. I think part of the reason, but I think the reason why it's happening right now.
Well, what do you think his career high for 3-point percentage for a season will be?
I think it's going to entirely depend about whether he continues to shoot this high volume of incredibly difficult.
Fair enough.
Like if he adopts the PJ Washington shot diet, then I think that changes his percentage. Right now, what's happening is he's taking shots that literally only Damian Lillard and Steph Curry are taking. Like in the game against Indiana tonight, he had one where
okay, well then maybe a better comparison
he went behind the back, between his legs, step back 3-pointer in one motion, and it was
then,
like what
yeah.
you never and he bricked it because that's one of the hardest shots you're ever going to take from.
Well, and maybe the better comparison would be then to say like because PJ's a corner guy. Like a lot of the time he's going to be out there. His job is to catch the open corner shot and get it up. So he's going to shoot a certain volume of threes that you want him to shoot.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the better comparison, and really what I was saying about PJ Washington is the simplification of it. If you're open, shoot it. If you're not, attack the closeout. And if you have a smaller player on you, back him down. But in terms of like shot diet for a big, I think maybe what he needs to model it after is more like what you see from Sabonis and Jokic.
Yes, 100%. No. And that was why I was excited about tonight because he had a couple of shots which were like ill-advised and were like just incredibly difficult, like low value shots, to be quite honest. Like like 3-point shots that you even for like Steph Curry, you would have been like, why do you need to take that? But he did that. He simplified the game. He did not hold the ball. He did not do that. He did not pull the Julius Randle and like hold the ball and scan. He made quick decisions. He made simple decisions. And what I mean by that was, either you shoot 3-pointer, or if you see someone closing out on you, pump fake, attack the rim. Attack the rim. You had the ball in the post. Quick decision. His post moves. He clearly had an idea of what shot he wanted to take in the post before he started his post move, which has been an issue where he clearly he's making up as he goes along, and the end result is that he's falling backwards, after taking the 2 steps and like out of balance, and he's attempting this like falling, sort of fadeaway hook shot. That you didn't see any of those. You saw like he played with purpose, he played with intensity, and he simplified his game. Like he did about 7 or 8. He waited for the defender to close out, pump fake, 2 dribbles, either hit the person in the corner, kick it out to the corner. Shoot a mid-range jumper or attack the hoop. It was, like that, and when he does that, it gets him in rhythm. It gets the team in rhythm. The team knows what he's doing. It leads to less chaotic turnovers. He is a player that is at this point, especially when he's driving to the hoop, is selfless. Like he likes to pass to a fault, I would argue. but he got his team going, and it was and you pair that with his ability on the defensive end. I mean,
his defense
he
is 10
blocked
of 10, no notes. Yeah.
he blocked shots on 3 consecutive possessions. And he blocked he blocked a fadeaway post shot. He blocked a jump shot in the perimeter, and he blocked a shot at the hoop in 3 separate possessions. And then he blocked a fourth one, but it was a goaltending because he blocked it right after it bounced out the backboard. And he had 5 blocks tonight. He had a couple of other shots where he made them airball to the side, like just like 3-pointers, fadeaway 3-pointers.
Oh, and there's stuff that you're not even going to see in the
Yeah.
stat sheet where it's just like people didn't shoot it.
Yeah. And he didn't shoot it. There
Or
was
they rushed a shot to get it up
Yeah.
before he could get out there.
he had one. Benedict Mathurin challenged him at one point where he just was like, "I'm going to try a layup on you and see if you can block it." And Wemby did that thing where he just basically takes the ball out of your hand in midair, and it, he was. I mean, after the game, they interviewed. I think it was Mathurin, and he was like, "Look, man, we tried. Wemby's really good. Not much you can do against a guy like this. When he's playing at this, like when he puts it all together, he's a fantastic player." And to get back to the question about, does Sochan, like what type of players you want to put around him, but like this, it really is quite revolving around Sochan. Sochan, one of the things that I think we did not talk about enough about his value to the team was while Sochan was out, Wemby had, because Sochan's such a good defensive player, he takes so much of the burden off of Wemby, makes him work so much less on the defensive end. And when he was out, Wemby was having to like scramble to the perimeter, scramble back. He was getting gassed, like visibly gassed in the second quarter of games, just exhausted and like visibly exhausted. And tonight, now granted, there was a couple of days off, but like he did also fly, across continents and dealing with it. Like,
Hey, he's 21. I ain't worried about the couple days off.
But the he was able to maintain his level of energy throughout the game a lot better than he had without when Sochan was missing. And I also thought I have been hard on Mitch Johnson. And I fully recognize that the situation he's been thrust into is completely insane, and there's that you have to give him an incredible, like everything taken a grain of salt. Like this is akin to Missoula's first season, where it's like, hey man, you're coach now. He just walks into work one day. It's, I mean, he just became coach because Popovich had a stroke. And great news that he's like the Spurs are saying now that he's going to return to coaching the team probably sometime this year. But one of the things he did was you really can't at this point play Castle and Sochan on the court together. It's really hard because the spacing just collapses because neither one of them can shoot and teams just sag off of them. But you can play one of the two of them. And he brought Sochan off the bench for this game. Gave him still like 28 minutes. But they staggering the two of them and playing them a little bit like you play them together when Wemby was off the court to provide a more defensive backbone to the team on the second unit team, which and made that team more run and gun. Just the fact that they can't score. That really clicked. That really worked. I was really impressed. It was not something that I had thought. And if you can find a way to make that work, that does make the question of can you play these two extremely talented defense first players who are good at sort of slashing and attacking the hoop.
Yeah, I think the slashing and the cutting with them two is really that they're both really good at that, and they can play off of Wemby.
And you can see Wemby enjoys having Sochan there. It provides one thing, he's an enforcer. It's harder to bully Wemby when Sochan's in there because he'll mix it up with you a little bit more. Two, he's the most Castle has a claim to this, but Sochan's just much taller than him. He provides a level Wemby likes to throw lobs. He's the best lob thrower on the team. And bizarrely enough, but he provides a lob threat that no one else in the team can match. And two, they have good chemistry. Like that's a development from last year. Last year their chemistry was non-existent.
Well, also Sochan was being asked to do something he's just not.
You can see the potential of this group. Now the big question is that hasn't been defined yet. What is this team What's this team's identity? Like, what is their identity on offense? Like right now, it's a lot of pragmatic stuff.
I don't think you can answer that question. And the reason I don't think you can answer that question is because, like, I think that a lot of people have a lot of ideas about, like, because you go back to who is this team built around? And it's Wemby.
Yep.
And I don't think you can answer what is Wemby's identity yet.
That's a really good point.
And
No,
if you don't know what the centerpiece of your team's identity is, then you don't know what this team's identity is. And the problem becomes, like, I think that with Wemby, if you have concerns about Wemby, I think that you could say, like, there's this, the flipping the switch of the intensity or whatever. Like, to me, it's not that. He's a competitive guy. That's evident. I do think he shies away from physicality.
Yes.
And I think that in this league, that's something he will, until he overcomes that, that's going to be a struggle for him.
Teams are just going to start playing him.
Well, I think he'll struggle with it for two reasons. One is because it's just a physical league.
Yeah.
But then two, once teams get a beat on that's a thing for you, they're going to strategize to be more physical and to agitate you in that way. The other thing, like, and to me, this is really more the concern that I would have with Wemby and in relationship to developing an identity and then therefore the identity of the Spurs. Wemby seems like he wants to live out his fantasy rather than fulfill his role. Wemby wants to be a point guard.
He does.
And he wants to kind of live out that fantasy in the middle of real NBA games. And he doesn't want to fulfill the role, which is, hey, man, you're a big.
Get your ass in the post.
Yeah, go down there. I don't need you trying to back down people, but catch the ball, face them up, 1 pound dribble spin off the glass, 1 pound dribble spin, dunk.
One dribble, pick the ball up, hook shot. Yeah.
Like, and if you're going to drive, like, like the most concerning thing I ever read about Wemby was that in the offseason, he wanted to work with Jamal Crawford. And I don't say that because I have a problem with Jamal Crawford. If Stephen Castle had decided to work with Jamal Crawford, I would have no problem with that. My issue is that, like, what I don't want to see Wemby trying to model his drive game after Jamal Crawford. In the same way that I said, like, an overall style of play, like a fair idea to model your game after would be PJ Washington. The piece of it that I would like to see him model, like on the dribble drive, Giannis.
Yes, 100%.
One dribble, get that ball up, lift off, and just let someone try to meet you at the rim. Like, let them figure that shit out. That's the thing you have to understand, that Giannis understands better than anybody. I'm the problem here, not you. I'm going to put the ball on the ground and attack the rim with the ferocity of 10,000 suns, and y'all can figure that shit out. That ain't for me to figure out. That's for y'all to figure out. And until Wemby gets that, like, he's not going to leverage his advantages against opposing teams to their fullest extent.
I mean, to your point, one of the things that he's going to realize at some point, he does these drives where, Giannis has that amazing ability where he'll take 2 steps and then he'll just sort of lunge at the rim. And he's so long, he can just sort of, like, shove it up there.
Yeah.
Wemby's even longer. And there's multiple times when he gets to the rim. Anybody. And he can do that if but he stops. he doesn't realize he can, like, that's all he's got to do is lunge at the rim like that, and he can get the ball up there. Even if he's basic three point, like the not 3 point line, but the free throw line, and there were 2 or 3 drives to the hoop where he just passed out, where that was available to him, and he acted like he was a guard. He acted like he was a guard, and he'd run out of space, and so now he was going to kick it out. And he bailed out the defense in both cases because, like, he hit the person he hit out wasn't open, and that's what I mean when he's almost too unselfish in that front. Like, he's thinking like a point guard when he attacks the rim instead of thinking like a big man, which is
like a Giannis.
Which is I do not need to dribble from literally from basically the 3 point line in to get to the hoop. I can take 2 steps. I can cover all the ground in 2 steps. My stride is so long, and that needs to click for him because he's right now he's overcomplicating it. He's behind the back dribbles, spin dribbles, moves that are completely unnecessary. Trying to cross people over. It's like, you don't need to cross people over. Just take a step around them. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, dude, like, there aren't very many people you're going to cross over. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't like. Look, if it doesn't matter where he wants to score from, he's capable of doing it. He can shoot the 3-point shot. And he just needs to take the Domantas Sabonis Jokic diet from 3.
In the Heat game, he was playing Kel'el Ware, and he got attacked.
Who has actually been somewhat impressive. Like, I'm actually like I watched him tonight.
Yeah. I've watched there was one point he was Kel'el over, like, the Heat were just smoking the Spurs, and Kel'el was talking shit. When he got mad. And he was like, "Fine, what you want to play this game? I'll play this." And he attacked him in his chest, 1 dribble from the 3 point line into his chest, 2 steps, just dunked on him. And it was like, buddy, where has this been the entire season? And then he did it again later because he's like, "Oh, I can do this." And it's like, this is something that you could do against anyone, like literally anyone. And maybe you can't dunk on everyone, but you can get a layup. Like you can get a layup, or you can get a shot.
Oh, if you go high off the glass, nobody can stop it.
That's what I mean. Like, and
if
like
you want to shoot the mid-range shot, quit making it complicated.
Quit fade. Yeah, like
just shoot the damn ball. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't.
Robinson thing. There was no you do not need to fade away.
You don't need anything. You don't need a dribble. You don't need a step. You don't need anything.
Duncan Robinson, he got the ball. They were isolated. Duncan Robinson saw him, and he was like close to the post. Duncan Robinson, you could see it run through his mind where he's like, "Shit, he's gonna post me up." So Duncan Robinson loads up, both arms out like he's a freaking offensive tackle, and as he's like, Wemby's making his move. So he shoves. Wemby's fading away. So Duncan Robinson nearly falls over because he's shoving air. And Wemby's taking this like long fadeaway jumper that basically barely grazes the rim off. And he did it like twice. And it's like, dude, even Duncan Robinson in this situation doesn't understand why you're fading away.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like the way LeBron or KD shoot in the mid-range, when they have the space, it's a shot.
Yeah,
there's no extra anything, and I think that's a young player thing. Like it's
very much so.
It's very much like, dude, that all that's nice. Like, even when the thing they don't understand though is, even when you pull off the dribble move to create the separation for the shot, when you already had the separation, the dribble move itself just becomes a distraction from the shot. Just get the ball up, man. Make it as simple as you possibly can. The more Wemby simplifies his game and divorces himself from the idea that, and quite frankly, here's another comparison I'd throw in there. The more he realizes that in his mentality, like his philosophy about basketball, he gets to the point where he's willing to mirror Tim Duncan in the simplification of the game. Like, he doesn't have to play the game Tim Duncan has. He just needs to understand, like, there are certain fundamentals that once I've met an objective, the point is to score. The point is not to add in a pound dribble cross between, hezzy, fade away, jump shot. Like when you already had the space, and the thing for him is, very rarely do you not have the space. That's the thing, dude.
He's so tall that Zach Edey can't contest it.
The space. Well, and even like a player like Zach Edey, like, okay, so Zach Edey's going to guard you. Is Zach Edey coming out into the perimeter with you? Because if Zach Edey's coming out to the perimeter with you, here's a guy you can do all your Jamal Crawford shit on.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you want to take someone off the dribble, do that to him. Don't do it to Dylan Brooks. Like Dylan Brooks has the advantage there. Like this is all just very simple stuff. Like if this guy's advantage is that he's lower than me, why am I going to put the ball low?
Yeah.
Like
I just want him. I've had this thing. Someone needs to just lock him in a room and just show him a bunch of Kevin McHale tape because, like, that man never brought the ball down at all.
I have a feeling that you could say nothing to Wemby that would irk him more, and then we're going to lock you in a room and make you watch Kevin McHale tape. I get the feeling, without even knowing Wemby, I'd have never been in the same room as Wemby. Well, I've been in the same arena as Wemby, but I've never. I feel a really high degree of confidence that Kevin McHale is not the player he's looking to model his game after. I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I know. I know exactly why. But like every Spurs fan, the one thing that is united Spurs fans all through 2 years is why are you bringing the ball down?
Yeah. Why is this ball getting swiped out of your hand on a low gather? Yeah. Also, do you realize a low gather for you is chest height for everybody else? Like,
not only that, it can be head height for some of the smaller guards.
Oh, I mean, if you go back to that Lakers game, he goes in that Lakers game, he goes cutting across the lane and does some weird behind the back thing, and when it comes out the other side, the ball's right here, and LeBron's like, okay, and like just takes it from him and goes. Like, but to weave this thread back together, like, obviously the Spurs are not a team that this year is going to make some deep playoff run. I think best case scenario for this Spurs team is they're a play-in team
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Could potentially get a draw in the play-in against a bad bottom-feeding Western Conference team that they could beat and find themselves, with a first-round exit in the playoffs. Like, to me, that's the best case scenario for this Spurs team. With that said, I think that the next order of business for the San Antonio Spurs is for Wemby to develop an identity, because until Wemby develops an identity that you can actually build a championship team around, a consistent identity, something that, like, I've never watched a Giannis game and thought to myself, like, well, this is new. I've never seen Giannis, like trying to be the point guard and just distribute constantly and never try to score. And he's shooting a lot of perimeter 3-point shots and all that stuff. Like, Giannis has
no mission creep with Giannis. He knows exactly what he wants.
Yeah. Like, Giannis has a very clear-cut identity. And, like, once Wemby has that, the Spurs can begin to build a team around that makes sense. But, like, when Wemby's identity is fluid, the problem becomes, like, well, some nights you're going to look into, like, Wemby decided to show up with identity E, and it pairs very well with Devin Vassell, and like, they're going to look great. And then there are going to be other nights where Wemby's like, you know what? I want Devin Vassell's job.
Yeah,
I'm going to be the 2 guard on this team. And then suddenly him and Devin Vassell look duplicative, and you've got players on the team looking at him wondering, like, why are you standing here? Like, what are you doing? Like, it's just kind of like the awkward guy who, like, wanders into conversations that aren't for him. He's just standing there 28 feet away from the basket, and his teammates are just like, all right, buddy, I'm not sure what you want. Like, and they just kind of go about their business. But when Wemby develops that identity, I think the Spurs organization can then say, okay, this is who our guy is. And I think me and you agree that guy is going to be a guy who can score at all 3 levels.
Yes.
And can himself be a passing hub. I don't foresee him being the type of passing hub that Jokic is, but I think he can be a good passer who creates for his team and can be used as a passing hub that his
I agree with
teammates
that.
are playing off of. But I think you're going to see a guy who can score at the basket. I think you're going to see a guy who can score in the mid range, and I think you're going to see a guy who can shoot the ball from three. And when that 3-point shot becomes a steady diet of open catch and shoot and trailing step into type threes, coupled with straight line drives with one or two dribble balls up high, attacking the rim, and then him punishing smaller guys by posting them up and establishing position and getting the ball fed to him and honestly forcing his team to play inside out. I think the Spurs reach another level. I think if he developed that identity today and consistently played that way for the rest of the season, they would easily be a play-in team.
I agree with that.
I think that the problem with them, the team's ceiling is much lower than Wemby's, so to speak, because I think that they then have to go out and find complementary pieces to match Wemby's identity. And really, I think you've only got two guys there that I think you can make really strong cases for being long-term pieces, and that's Sochan and Vassell. I think everybody else, I
You
mean,
don't
is
have
good.
Castle as a.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. 100%. 100%. I
Yeah.
just had a brain fart and left him out. And I think you actually have a stronger case for him being a long-term piece than Vassell.
Yeah.
But I could see those four guys forming a core.
Yes.
Um,
I think that's yeah. And I think that I also think that this is a team that you could look up in 2 years and the only remaining piece from the team is Wemby and maybe a Castle.
Oh,
Like yeah.
I'd be blown away if Castle wasn't it. I mean, I think with Castle, the only concern you have is about him developing a consistent shot.
Oh, if he does that, he's gonna be an all-star. Like he's that good
Yeah.
of a player.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, and he fits the mold for what every team has to have. They need the big athletic perimeter defender, who's not a zero on offense. I mean, like, I don't know if you saw, that sequence. I posted it on our Twitter page. That sequence from the Pistons game the other night with Ulster Thompson on defense.
Yes, or he guards all five
God
positions.
bless, man. Like that. Like I feel like
You show that to Levi, and you're like, "This is what's expected of you every game." Yeah.
I was in his bedroom at 6 a.m. and just had the video open on my phone. And when he opened his eyes, I was like, "Watch this until your eyes bleed."
Yeah.
This is like, because like the truth is,
He's like, "Can I have cereal first?" Like, no. Yeah.
This is your cereal.
Yeah.
And like, it's because I think that that's almost like archetypal level perimeter defense, like the level of activity and like agility and just like fundamental soundness, like in the way that he breaks down and attacking closeouts and stays under control the whole time and rotates. And I mean, it's unreal watching it, but like everybody's looking for that, and finding it at that level is going to be hard. But I mean, Stephen Castle's something for Spurs fans to be very excited about. I look at, I mean, obviously Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes aren't long-term pieces. In fact, I'd be surprised if they're back next year. But like, I think like Keldon Johnson and, I mean, who am I missing? Like, Trey Jones, like,
These are not long-term pieces.
yeah, I have a hard time seeing these guys as being long-term pieces.
In fact, I think the Spurs would have traded Johnson. I'd throw even Vassell in there, honestly, if they were able to get something that they think would upgrade at their position. I think they're very open to all of those.
Yeah, I mean, the question mark I have about Vassell is, and I've kind of felt this way all year, is with Devin Vassell, like he missed he was impressive last year.
He was.
And he missed a good chunk of the season to start. And I would be hesitant to move on from him because of the potential he's shown.
Yes.
If he can put that to, if he finishes the season playing like he's been playing of late,
Yeah.
I don't know what the upgrade would be like.
Well, what's the upgrade also? He matches age-wise the timeline you're looking for. Like he with him, he's already when he's at his best playing at the level you would want for someone to be like a third option. I think he's probably closer to a third option to a second option on a title winning team. But he's a damn good third option, like a really really high level. And when he plays like he is tonight, like he's a second. He plays at a second option level.
So
like
my question
he's
then
making
would
high
be,
level shots tonight. Yeah,
like my question then would be, so like if you've got Castle on the floor and you've got, I'm assuming we're talking about Castle as the point guard and not like a Amon Thompson type wing, like a quasi ball handling type wing.
in this scenario, you would have to hope that he's developed a good jump shot, and because if he develops a jump shot, the Spurs are going to throw him at point guard. That's very clear. They want that.
So
Yeah.
you've got Vassell at point. I'm sorry, Castle at point guard, Vassell at shooting guard is your third option, and I guess my only question then about that team becomes like, is Wemby so good that because I see Castle as a third option too,
Yeah.
and
He's shown the ability, like especially getting into the hoop at this point.
athleticism wise, yeah. Like I mean,
Yeah.
he's not. Well, I mean, like I said, he's not the Thompson twins athleticism wise, but he's athletic. Like he's up there. Like
Yeah.
he's in whatever tier.
He's
whatever tier
He's
below
a point guard size guy who can do windmill dunks.
He's a big point guard.
He's a big point guard, but he can do windmill dunks just jumping vertically. He's done them in games. Yeah.
So like my question is Wemby so good that this is a title winning team with a first option and two third options? Because that's the question you see with guys like teams like OKC.
It's the team like OKC, but it's the famous one is Milwaukee.
Yes.
When they're titled like that, where they didn't who's the second option between Holiday and Middleton. I mean, it just random. It depended game to game, honestly.
I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Chris Middleton was the second option on offense, and Drew Holiday was the second best player.
Yes, I think that's the best way to describe it. And I think that they can get there, but I think the Spurs team is secretly hoping that Castle will become the second option. Like, it has that potential to reach there.
So you think that the plan is for Stephen Castle to take some major leaps and develop into a legit second option scorer in the NBA?
I don't think the Spurs think that Vassell is anything than what he already has shown, which is a very, very good player, and maybe some gradual improvement to like become more consistent.
That's where I think you see the step for Vassell is with consistency.
Yeah, and the thing that's been really cool about him this year is he's added he just gets some monster dunks in games now, like just some out of the blue, just monster dunks. And that's something that's just appeared randomly in his fifth year in the league. But I think that the player that they really see having long-term all-star potential is Castle. This is the way you know that is in my time watching the Spurs. There's only been 2 rookies that I've ever seen. 3 rookies I've ever seen get consistent minutes from day one. And that includes some other good rookies, consistent starter minutes, level minutes, and that's Tony Parker. That's that's Victor Wembamyama, and then Stephen Castle. They just don't give minutes to rookies. They Derek White, all-star level player. Now they sent him to the G League for his first entire year. Then gave him minutes the second year. Vassell got spot minutes all his rookie year. Keldon Johnson didn't play at all his rookie year. They just don't play. I mean, Sochan got some minutes, but that team was so chaotic. It just wasn't like it's hard to compare.
Tim Duncan, huh?
Well, that's a long time ago. Yeah, Tim Duncan averaged Tim Duncan averaged 23 and 10 and 2 blocks his rookie year. He was an All NBA first team player as a rookie. So yeah. But I was talking more since the turn of the century. Of the millennium. I think is the but I think that was a clear sign that they view him as they have really high hopes for him.
Well, I mean, I think the clearest sign was them being willing to trade the Rob Dillingham pick away, and it was almost like they burned the boats behind them and said Stephen Castle's their guy.
Yes.
So, but I mean, I think Spurs fans have a lot of reason to be excited, apart from the fact that you just have a an all-world player on your team. Like you've got some interesting young pieces that are building up towards something. I think that Spurs fans, for the rest of the season, like have to throttle their expectations some and just like, the ceiling for this team is somewhat dependent upon who Wemby is going to be. And he's still figuring that out.
Yes,
and then
100%.
And then even beyond that, like they need him to figure that out to really build a team around him. And I also think like maybe part of this too becomes like, putting people around him that do some of the things he wants to do that aren't his strengths better than he does them.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's hard to go around pretending you need to be the point guard when Chris Paul's on your team.
Yeah.
It's hard to pretend like you need the game-winning 3-point shot when Steph Curry is on your team. And so I think that, surrounding him with guys who are role players and highly competent in their roles will help mitigate some of his bad habits as well.
So to end this, I just wanted to bring it full circle to the most important question that we haven't addressed yet. What do you think of your favorite writer, Tom Haberstraw's recent article saying that to maximize Wemby, the Spurs needed to go after Steph Curry? Him and Kevin O'Connor did a whole segment of their podcast.
I know. Like, these jackasses are just like clickbait writers who have hoarded their brains out to some of the dumbest ideas and headlines just to get people to click on them and read about them. Like, I mean, I listened to Kevin O'Connor on the damn Bill Simmons podcast recently talk about how
it physically pained you.
Oh, it didn't pain me. I just turned the shit off. But like when we get to the point where he literally says, "I'm just not sold on Luka," and I'm just like,
there's a lot of things you can say about Luka, but he's
who are you sold on? Like, who are you? Like, I don't know. Look, dude. I mean, you're Kevin O'Connor. Who like if your standards are so high that you're sitting back saying I'm not sold on Luka, like I can't take you seriously as a human being. I just feel like your mouth is a window that opens and pours mind vomit onto everybody, and we're all made dumber for hearing it. That's what I think. And I when I read the headline, I didn't read much of the article when you sent it to me, but I just thought to myself like, whatever gave anyone the indication that Golden State was going to send Steph Curry to San Antonio?
Well, it cracked me up because when we did our mock trades podcast, the one rule we set was, look, man, we got to make things that are remotely realistic, because otherwise we could be like, hey, you know what the Lakers should add? Jokic. Like if they had Jokic next to AD.
Well, I mean,
and LeBron,
I don't think it's just Jokic. Like if you could bring so look, here's what I would do. Trade Austin Reeves to Dallas for Luka. Bring Jokic in for send Rui and DFS to Denver. Like they like wings. Send DFS and Rui to Denver for Jokic. So now you have Luka, LeBron, AD, and Jokic. It's perfect.
Yeah.
LeBron is getting to the age where he can't bring the ball up and be the primary creator anymore. AD has consistently said that he plays better when he's a 4 instead of a 5.
Yeah.
Now look at this team.
Yeah. That like it was that so like and then like he presents the idea that adding adding Steph Curry to Wemby would be an upgrade for Wemby. It's like, is there anyone on earth who's arguing this isn't the case? Like,
Yeah. Oh, I also love that the timelines match.
Yeah. No, his explanation was that was the best one. He was like, well, look, Dwayne Wade won a title in his third year when they added old Shaq. So why don't we just add old Steph Curry to Wemby, and then he'll win a title in his third year. It's like, yes, that makes absolute sense. That's exactly how this works. Adding an old center is the same as adding an old point guard. I completely agree with you. An old 400-pound Shaq is the same as old small Steph Curry. Like, there's no logical problems with this.
No, and like I fully subscribe to the idea that you should totally leverage your future with a 21-year-old phenom.
Yeah.
To get one title potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because what are we giving up to get Steph? I didn't even look at that.
Everything would be. You would have to. There's no way around it. You make so much money.
Yeah. Like that border wall Trump's going to build, San Antonio's got to give it to Golden State.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're just like so basically we're just asking, can Steph, Wemby, and some G League players win a title?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the plus side, Mamu Kalashvili might get some minutes in that situation, but yeah.
I mean, he's just writing stuff. It's like it's like, yeah, it's bananas, dude. Like, I personally, as a Spurs fan, would lose my mind if I woke up and saw that they had traded the farm to get Steph.
I would be so confused. I would be like, what?
Yeah. No, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I'll tell you, like now someone who's floating around out there, if you could get him kind of on the cheap, that like has like some interest to me is if you were to move Stephen Castle into kind of like that Amin Thompson role where he's more of like an athletic wing that's a slasher and a cutter, and you were to be able to wiggle that Nikola Topic guy off of OKC and have him play like a pure point guard role.
Yeah.
I like that because I also think you've seen
I like Topic a lot in the draft last year.
Yeah, I thought he was a good value. I mean, it's crazy that OKC ended up with him, but I also think OKC's in a situation where it's really hard to get him on the court.
That's the whole thing we haven't. Yeah, we can talk about that in another podcast. But like everyone lauds all their draft picks, but like they don't have room in the rotation to play these dudes. Like they're just not going to get minutes. All of them are going to ride the bench.
And bizarrely, he's one of the ones like you actually do kind of need.
Yeah,
like you need a ball handler, play creator. But no, I agree, and I have a hard time seeing them parting ways with. The only one I can see them parting ways with would be Lou Dort to get him out there. But like it fundamentally changes that team. That team is completely different without Lou Dort out there.
They don't want. They also he's like a. They love Lou Dort.
Well, I mean, but like if they were to do that, like I mean, the number of teams in the NBA who would be interested in Lou Dort are 32. Like I mean, especially if you're in the Western Conference, Lou Dort is in Oklahoma City to deal with Luka. If you're in the Western Conference,
we talk trash about Lou Dort, but he's fantastic. I'd take him on the Spurs in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Oh, I think Lou Dort is a top perimeter defender, especially when you consider the fact that like if you're looking at it and saying like we've got to go through Dallas.
Yeah.
Lou Dort's got like he's indispensable at that point.
Yeah.
And so, like, I have a hard time believing that. So, like, my only point in bringing this up was to say, if I could get Nikola Topic off of OKC, I would prefer that to Steph Curry because I actually see him as fitting in well. And then suddenly now what we have is a team where you've got Nikola Topic and Devin Vassell in your backcourt.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Sochan and Castle as your wing. And then you got Wemby at the 5.
Yeah. I mean,
Or you could put Wemby at the 4 and bring in another big. I mean, it gives you a lot of like you get a good backup center. That team suddenly becomes very versatile now. Like there's just a lot that you can do.
100%. I mean,
now I'll give it to Tom.
Yeah.
If I wrote an article that said San Antonio needs to go get Nikola Topic, it would not get the clicks that putting Steph's name in it would get.
Especially when you add in revisionist history, like when the Lakers inexplicably traded Shaq to Miami. It's like, do you remember what basketball was like at that point in time? There was no coming back. Like they had a very clear thing. It was Kobe or Shaq, and both
Yes.
of them made that clear. It wasn't like
100%. Also, like the CBA was different. There's a lot of different things back then. But while I'm giving credit to Tom, that like his would get more clicks, you have to give credit to me that mine's not as fucking stupid.
You do. And I'll just end with this. I have a really hard and fast rule of not trading the farm for players who are actively giving interviews saying that they think their career is ending really soon.
Who wants to see, like, you're a San Antonio fan. Who wants to see Steph Curry in a Spurs jersey? I don't. I want to see Steph end his career in Golden State.
No one does. And the reason for that is that, yeah, he's described with one franchise. I mean, it's like the weird Tony Parker thing where he ended his career playing for the Charlotte Hornets.
It's hard to read. It's hard to tolerate. But anyway, look, guys, it's pretty late. We're not in Paris, but it's still pretty late. And look, I think Wemby and San Antonio's future is really bright. And if you're a Spurs fan, please like, subscribe, follow us, share our videos with your friends and family because we're going to keep talking about the Spurs. He's a lifelong Spurs fan, and my brother-in-law lives down in San Antonio. My sister, they go to a lot of games. I tune in. I watch a lot. We're both interested in this team. We're going to keep talking about them. So please, like I said, like, subscribe, follow, and continue to, check in with us. You're going to continue to get Spurs content from us. But until next time, look forward to talking to you. Have a good one.
Peace.